Well, welcome back, Kittitas Valley Sports Talk fans. I am Eric Sorensen, joined by John Goudet and Luke Olson. Guys, we're back. Another episode 11. We've been doing names of
jersey numbers.
And jersey numbers of great athletes. I don't even need to say the guy's name. All right, you guys all know who that. Number 11, Edgar Martinez.
Edgar Martinez.
What a great baseball player. We had to mention him. I know this is an Apple Cup episode, Apple Cup week, but how do we not mention the Hall of Famer on our 11th episode? But Apple Cup week, let's go to a couple other names that we know and love. Mark Brunell.
Mark Brunell.
UW quarterback.
He was the jersey number 11.
Jersey number 11. And we're going to call this one, because he has ties to this valley, we're going to call episode 11 the Drew Bledsoe episode.
That's right.
Quarterback
on Apple
11.
Cup week.
Yep. Has one of the big highlights that you'll see in Martin Stadium every time you're there with the touchdown in the snow, and they're throwing snowballs. Fun fact, his dad, Mac Bledsoe, was a Kittitas football coach.
Wow.
And then he went on to bigger and better things.
He went to Walla
with Kittitas as his foundation,
That's
we'll just
right.
say. Yeah.
That's right.
Couldn't have done it without Kittitas.
Absolutely. That's, all great careers start in Kittitas.
That's right.
Pretty safe thing to say.
You could say that, right? You can say that.
We're still to be determined to me. Actually, the great career, my uncle Ed Hansen played for Mac Bledsoe, then played for Central, and he lives in Bellevue and winters in Tucson, Arizona. And
Isn't it amazing how everybody has like some sort of link? You could find, what is that, 6 degrees of link or separation or whatever.
Yeah.
All good things start in the Kittitas Valley.
Absolutely.
K-Town, as you call it?
K-Town, as I call it. Yep.
Heck yeah. Well, if you are joining us, we are trying something new today. We got the camera rolling right now, so we'll wave at the camera high. Hopefully, it's far enough away they can't see my face, my radio face. In the background, we got a flag up. I got great Amazon purchase here. Half Coug, half Husky flag. It's going to go to the Apple Cup this year, my tailgate with my friend Kelly Gow, who's a Husky. And we've actually made a fun bet. Whoever's team wins the Apple Cup gets to take that flag home. And when my wife Paige said, "Are you really going to hang a Husky flag in your garage?" I said, if it means we won the Apple Cup, heck yes.
Isn't that amazing or it's not amazing, it's just fitting that your wife knows you that well to say, are you really going to put purple up in your garage?
Absolutely.
So that is a wife who knows her husband very well.
She does know me very well. Well, I know we're a local sports talk here, but I think the Apple Cup is a very big topic
Huge topic
in this valley. I mean, I went to Fred Meyer's. I had to run there quickly. We had an incident with my daughter, hurt her hand yesterday, so I was sprinting in and sprinting out. But as I was sprinting out, I saw some crimson walking in and out, and there's some purple walking around there, and it's kind of it's a big week. It's a fun week. I know I beat Kelly this year, and he got the 5 a.m. meme text that we have a daily meme text on the Apple Cup. But I mean, I guess the thing where we got to go with this is what's the Apple Cup mean to you guys? I mean, it's a local. I know I used to ask my teachers growing up. When the new teacher would be at Kittitas or a substitute teacher, excuse me, are you a Cougar or a Husky? And I liked them if they were the Cougs, and actually a few of them were like, I knew that was going to get that question.
You know what? For me, I am a Cougar fan. I root for the Huskies as well. I'm always rooting for the Cougars in the Apple Cup. You, Country, you're a guy you're a huge Cougar fan, and whoever plays the Huskies. Mm-hmm. I like both teams. Lately, though, and I'd say lately as in the last 20 years or so, I've always rooted for the Cougs in the Apple Cup. We were talking about how we have links or stories about Apple Cup stories, and this one just came to me. My dad is a UW grad. He was an accounting major at UW. My mom went to Wazoo as well. And so I always thought, whoa, but I didn't, in my household, I didn't have that major intense rivalry. My mom definitely cheered for the Cougs, and she still does. My dad always cheered for the Huskies, obviously still does, but it wasn't like a major event. It was just an appreciation of the game. But both of you guys are going to be at the game this weekend, and I will be watching it on TV. And so, I mean, what are your stories?
Well, Luke, you go first. You were the one that grew up minutes from the stadium, I believe.
That's right, you did.
Wait, it's in Seattle?
Yeah.
Yeah, so most of my family, a lot of them went to UW, but somehow I ended up getting brainwashed into liking the Cougars.
Absolutely.
My grandfather went there. Me and my grandfather were always pretty close. He's gone now, but yeah, being a Coug always kind of stuck with me. He kind of got me over, and never been able to change. I've been to a lot of Husky games. I've never been to Martin Stadium yet, but yeah, I've been to a couple Apple Cups, and yeah, it's always rooted for the Cougs.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm on year 5 or 6
of Apple Cup,
consecutive Apple Cups. We had to take
consecutive. Okay,
1, 2. Yeah, I think we're back and forth. And then we took a year or 2 off due to I don't know why, but the very first Apple Cup I had been to was with Kelly. He got to my house and we drove. We left like 5 in the morning. It was a 1 o'clock kickoff in Pullman, and it was the last Apple Cup the Cougs had won. And we met a couple guys in Colfax that were from Spokane, hopped in the pickup, and met us there. I was there with Tyler Druffel. If you're from Pullman, you know the Druffel family. They're very large. He was a Big Bend baseball player with me. I remember Cougs won. I believe we kicked a field goal in overtime to win it, and they started storming the field, and I took off crazy, running, screaming, Cougs won. And I got about halfway to the field and turned around and realized all my friends were there, so they hadn't moved. And they said, "Let's go, let's beat the traffic." And they're storming the field. They gotta do this. But it's been a fun event until about third, fourth quarter. For me, at least, he's pumped about it. I got a lot of pictures on my phone. He sent me a very angry face. It was actually my bachelor party. Went to the Apple Cup in Pullman a couple of years, not this last one, but the one before.
Right.
And
so there's a couple of things you said there. You had the opportunity to storm the field, but you decided to be practical, and beat traffic.
We had to drive home that night.
Well, I agree with that. I'm a 42-year-old married dad, happily married dad, and one of the reasons why everything's happy is because I am practical at times. Right. But if you rush the field, don't stop.
Keep going.
Just keep going.
It was one of my many mistakes in my life. It's up there in the top.
I have rushed the field before, but it wasn't in the Apple Cup. But you throw practicality out of the way. Is that even a word?
You just go.
Practicality. Yep. It is a word today. You throw it out the window, and you just become a true 100% emotional fan. You think nothing else except for yourself. It's a very selfish moment, but it's a very fun moment.
If you're with your kids, you're just gonna take off.
My kids will do pretty much anything that I tell them to do if it results in fun and making their mom, my wonderful wife, roll her eyes. So I would just say, hey, it doesn't make sense, but let's go jump off this cliff into the Yakima River. It'll be like, okay, Dad, I'll beat you there. If it says, hey, let's go rush the field, then we will rush the field.
We go. I hope someday I can have Ellie and whatever future kids we hopefully have. And they're like, let's go. And then we have to find Mom an hour or two later because we're in the mayhem of the middle of the field. I think that would be an awesome experience.
So we've talked about like our family expectations of rushing the field. Luke, what would Willow say if you rushed the field at Husky Stadium this weekend?
She'd probably think that was pretty funny. Yeah,
pretty funny.
She'd be all for it.
As she's writing the bail money check, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right.
Is she going with you this one?
She's not. No. Yeah, just me, and I got invited by an old family friend, and they have season tickets. So
awesome.
It should be fun.
I get Paige is going for her very first Apple Cup.
Really?
Yes. Wow. It's a guy's trip, and she got to go this year. And she tells this story, so I'm okay with telling it on here. But I had to talk with her. Hey, you understand? There's Apple Cup can be pretty miserable weather-wise, and we're here with a couple of other dudes. We're not leaving. It's a mutual agreement when we leave. That's every year. I mean, that's not just because she's going, but every year, it's like we're not leaving early. If your team's getting blown out, which unfortunately has been the case the last few years, but if your team's getting blown out, we stay until the entire group says we can go. And we've been through a torrential downpour, and the last time it was in Seattle. Mm-hmm. That was kind of fun. We took the train in, which comes out right at the stadium at UW. I got the upper hand. I think I said before was I bought the tickets that year, and we were right next to the Cougar marching band. which was great.
That is cool.
It was awesome. Kelly did not enjoy it. He said he won't let me buy them again. But and then we were through the snowstorm last year. We bought an RV pass. We camped out, and it snowed. Luckily, we were undercover because people.
It snowed hard.
They looked miserable down there.
Yeah,
but no, it's just a fun.
Here's a question for you, and I don't need to see. I don't want specifics or anything like that, but it's a tough ticket to get, and if you might have to find it on resale sites and stuff like that. But it's one of those things where that's kind of like your Christmas. Like for me and my family, our impractical purchase is rodeo tickets and such. So for you and your family, is it Apple Cup tickets then?
Well, it's mostly me. I've only been by myself with Kelly, Gal, my friend. Yeah, I guess I don't know if Paige likes me leaving every Apple Cup the day after Thanksgiving, but it's for me it is. It's I think everybody needs their time with their buds, and
I agree.
It's a fun, and she knows I'm a pretty diehard fan. I wish I was ready to go to school at WSU. I was all signed up to go. And
me too.
And then Desi Story caught me at Super One that summer leading up and said, practice starts on this day. I said, no, you want me to come play? He's like, yeah, you're going to be on the team. I was like, oh, went home that day. I was like, Dad, I guess I'm staying. I'm going to Central. So that was I was almost a Coug. I was going to go be there and go be a lifer. I was going to go to every game and stuff. But yeah.
So I say me too, as in I was ready to go. Of course, I wasn't recruited for baseball. That's not what brought me to Central. But so the similarities pretty much stopped once you took over the Story. But the Palouse is a great area.
It's beautiful.
It is truly God's country. We were talking about it before we went on the air. 2 out of the 3 of us have been to Palouse Falls. Luke, you got to put it on your bucket list. It's a great way to break up. I won't even say long, monotonous drive, but it is a decent drive there. And
get off at Washtuckna, right?
Yeah, just take a turn at Washtuckna and keep driving. Even though you think you're lost, you are not.
It is gorgeous. Get there. I was telling Luke, when you go, you're going to see nothing but flat land, and you're going to think there's no waterfall here. And then eventually there's a sign. You turn left, and boom. Boom. And you better stop because that's gorgeous. A big hole.
It is. That's a big hole that the waterfall falls into. Of course, we're going to talk about sites that you see. Mm-hmm. You've got, for me, Palouse Falls turnoff there. The big, I want to say wheat barn or hay barn with the Go Cougs. Every time I'm there, I got pictures of me just doing it, and then me and my wife and girls doing it as well. And then, of course, I'm thinking the grain elevators at Dusty.
Which remember Jason Gesser was in the Heisman, and they put his picture on that grain elevator.
Yeah,
Dusty.
We're going back about 15 years now, give or take. Yeah. More than that, I think.
Well, I think he played right before our guest.
Before our guest. Can we talk about that a little bit?
We can, yeah. We can talk.
You're the one that set it up, so the spotlight gets shined on you.
We are fortunate, and I'm very excited. I know you guys are pretty pumped. I don't think you'd believe me when I texted you, but this week's guest is Cougar quarterback Alex Brink. He played for the Cougs 4 years. He was part of 3 Apple Cup victories, 2 in Seattle, 1 in Pullman. And the year they lost it was a year they should have won. I think it just knocked him out of being bowl eligible that year, it sounded like. And
that's a good point. I actually hope he kind of talks about that.
Yeah. But it was we're so excited to have, a guy that's he's down in Oregon. He's got a clothing line. He's going to talk about American football brand. And, we're super excited to have a Cougar legend. I think he qualifies for that. He does the play-by-play. He's the color commentator with Matt Chazanow on the Cougar Radio. And if you get a chance to look up his podcast, it's the Coors Light Cougar podcast, which that'd be a cool sponsor.
Coors Light Cougar podcast.
Right.
I'm suddenly thirsty.
Yes,
absolutely. Thirsty.
But that's a great guest, and we're super excited to have him on. He called in, and I think before we get into that, I don't know if I want to read these stats, but we got to talk.
Let's
about
just do it.
We have Husky fans on there listening. We got some voice messages we're going to play afterwards. We got a couple Huskies on there, and I think everybody's both kind of agreeing that it's kind of an upsetting year, that we thought we had higher hopes for what goes on. But the
Cougs teams,
Cougs are bowl. Huskies have already been bowl eligible. The Cougs are now bowl eligible. They're going bowling after knocking off Oregon State in a absolute. It's a good thing.
Down to the literal wire.
Absolutely. Good thing Ellie wasn't asleep yet. I was screaming at the TV. The other thing I heard A friend of mine, Harry Pratt, goes. He's a season ticket holder. I guess whenever time Max Borghi gets the ball, a guy in each section stands up and goes, "Borghi, Borghi, Borghi," and the whole stadium goes, "Oi, oi, oi!"
What a guy!
Isn't that awesome?
If he's already famous, then just for he embraces that as well.
Yeah.
He seems like a pretty cool guy. I was watching an interview with him. Gosh, I wish I could reference it a little bit better, but basically he didn't guarantee anything, but he said, "I'm going to be scoring a lot
Yes.
in this Apple Cup," and the sports information director is like,
Cut it
"All right,
off."
we're done."
After guaranteeing the victory last
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
I was just.
But that's a
listening
good
to that.
personality, and every team
Yeah.
needs that. I'm trying to think who had that personality last year. He had a mustache,
so.
headband,
I think his
Mr.
name's
Minshew.
Gardner.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking about that today, and for our guys on the baseball team in Kittitas, I'm going to bring this up in a meeting this year about look at two guys at WSU who have been, legend's a pretty good word for them lately, but very popular guys. And why are they popular? Why do people like them? Well, because they're down to earth. Borghi, he'll speak up a little bit, but they work hard. They expect their teams to win, and they don't expect something for nothing, and it's awesome. And Coug fans love guys like that just come to Pullman, believe, and they go and they work hard. But before we get into this, I guess we do got to talk a little bit about this. The series, total times, it'll be the 112th, I believe.
Yep.
If this is correct. And if you walk through the Kittitas Elementary School, you'll see Coach Watkins' door, Hall of Fame baseball coach, Coach Watkins at Kittitas. He has a question marked, says, "Can you solve this riddle?" And it is 73, 32, and 6. And if you're a fan of this, you know that's the overall record of the Apple Cup. He's a Husky fan, Rainier Beach grad. So that's Washington leads it. The largest victory was in 2000. UW won 51-3.
We don't have to talk about that. I do remember that.
Unfortunately, the largest win streak. UW has an 8-game win streak a couple times, but I believe our guest ruined that, didn't he?
So right now, UW is on a 6-game win streak, and the last 3 years, both teams have been ranked. This year, obviously, like you mentioned, neither one are meeting or exceeding expectations. But the last 3 years have been ranked, both teams. UW's on a 6-game winning streak right now. The last time they had a 6-game winning streak, a redshirt freshman quarterback, Alex Brink, our guest, got victory number 1 against them to stop the 6-game win streak. We're going into a 6-game winning streak again. Does it stop this week? I hope so. I mean, I got nothing but love for the Huskies. I just cheer the Cougars on Apple Cup.
Absolutely. Well, that's enough of us talking, I believe. Let's go into this week. We need to talk about our sponsor real quick because they are awesome. They've kept the lights on for us. Fitters Furniture, they're on 4th and Main.
4th and Main, right downtown in historic Ellensburg.
Quality furniture since 1896. I hope you guys enjoyed the radio ad last week.
You know what?
It was hilarious.
It was popping up into my head, and that was definitely Brad's personality.
It was awesome.
Showing in that ad. So we're going to be playing it again
right now
here in just a moment. So want to say thanks to Fitters Furniture for sponsoring us, and let's get right into their ad right now.
Make sure you get in there and tell them the Kittitas Valley Sports Talk sent you. We have our first shout out. Someone went in there and told them.
Let's get our second shout out.
It was a Pat Fitterer guy that he coached playing basketball, I believe, from Highland. So that's awesome. All right. Without further ado, enjoy our commercial from our great sponsor, and then we'll bring on Alex Brink, quarterback at the Washington State Cougars. Well, welcome back, Kittitas Valley Sports Talk fans. This is a segment where the guest of the week brought to you by Fitters Furniture, quality furniture since 1896. We are very pleased to have the winningest quarterback in the Apple Cup for the Cougs. Joining us today, Alex Brink. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
First off, I guess your podcast, nothing new to you. You got one that if you guys haven't listened to it yet, Coors Light Cougar podcast with Matt Chazanow, Jed Collins, right? And tell us a little bit. That's exciting. Is it fun doing that? I'm sure.
Yeah, man, it's super fun. So, and it's kind of neat. It's a unique group, right? We got my broadcast partner Matt Chazanow, Jed Collins, who I've played with, and then Dave Emmerich, who's the chief of staff for the Cougs. So he's kind of like Coach Leach's right-hand man. So it's a fun, group and it's obviously for people that haven't heard, it's pretty lighthearted. We'll talk a little football just because I think that's important, but we also get into all sorts of crazy stuff. Like we were talking about, how you feel about Dippin' Dots and cotton candy last week. So we got all sorts of good stuff. We're always jonesing for, Coors Light is the sponsor kind of through the piece with Washington State IMG, but we're always jonesing for kind of tongue in cheek for new sponsors and things like that. So it's kind of a funny deal, but yeah, please check it out, the Coors Light Cougar podcast every week.
So Alex, has Dippin' Dots reached out to you yet?
No, Dippin' Dots is not. No, Dippin' Dots hasn't. We've worked hard at Alaska Airlines, but Jed, was upset about a baggage claim issue. So I think we lost them somewhere along the line.
Man.
We've tried all sorts of different things, to be honest with you, but it hasn't really taken hold yet. So can't imagine why.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, have you recovered from Saturday's game? That was a little hard on the heart that night.
Boy, I tell you what, that was, we got done where we're kind of finishing the game's over, and Matt and I were wrapping up the broadcast. And he said, "Gosh, have you ever been a part of a game like that?" I said, "Well, Matt, about 6 weeks ago, we had pretty much the same deal with UCLA. It just broke the other way." And so, as far as being a part of a win like that, boy, that was a heck of a game. Hard to imagine the last 7 minutes of that game going like that. So I'm barely recovered, but it's Apple Cup week, so we got to get ready for that.
Actually, that leads me into a question here really quick is, obviously you've been in close game situation, big game situations. Everybody's going to be like, oh, you got to take it one down at a time, one game at a time, whatever it is. But you're behind the center and you're seeing this, you're 2 yards away, heart racing. Or are you in the zone to where you really don't have the opportunity to think about it like a fan would think about it?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that it's a heightened sense, but it's you're very much, if you've done the preparation and you're very much locked in, right? It's one of those things where I tell you in that scenario specifically, which I think is unique, is Washington State gets on the ball and they're getting ready to snap it, and then Oregon State calls the timeout. So you go to the sideline, and I think that's the best thing that could have happened to Washington State, because they go to the sideline and running back coach Eric Mealy, he's up in the box, and he radios down to the sideline and says, "Hey guys, if we line up in the same formation, same play," he's like, "I don't think they have enough guys in the box, but take a look at it when you get to the line." But kind of was able to give Anthony Gordon a key to look at, and that's what happened, right? They come out, they actually flipped the formation, but it was the same play call. And Anthony turned to Max Forgy and said, "Hey, I think we should run this thing." And Max said, "Heck yeah, we should." And so they made the check. So, I think definitely your heart's racing, you're going, but you're so locked in. And if your preparation's good, you know what you're looking for, which obviously then ultimately leads to success, like happened for Washington State.
I know that I was texting with local Ellensburg guy, Dane Williams, who's a big Cougar alumni. And
that's my guy, Dane.
Dane's the man.
He's the best.
His text on Sunday morning was, "Man, if we had 22 Borgies, we'd be the 72 Dolphins."
Yeah, right. Yeah. I think that's a fair statement. It's funny. Like, Max is a guy who's, stuck is the wrong word, but he's in this system that in theory doesn't highlight his abilities to the fullest extent. Now he takes advantage of it, and Washington State, I think, uses them in some unique ways at times. But imagine if he's in a different offense. Imagine if he's in the Oregon Ducks offense, how he's getting used, right? Or shoot, even Oregon State for that matter. But with that being said, right? He's so productive. I was looking at going into this game, he was ranked 8th in Washington State history in total touchdowns, and he's only been here for less than 2 years.
Wow,
it's unbelievable.
I didn't even think about that.
He's gonna be a guy. Obviously, we're gonna enjoy watching for the next couple of years, and an even better kid too.
Absolutely. Well, before we get into the hard-hitting Apple Cup questions, I saw on your Twitter that you have a brand, a company starting up here, American Football Brand. Talk to us about that. Let the folks know.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's pretty cool. Yeah, American Football Brand's a fun venture between myself and a couple other guys who played college football and are former football players. Where we want to bring some awareness and excitement to the game of football, kind of outside of just say you're a fan of Washington State or a fan of the Seahawks, but this is, hey, you really love the game of football, the history, the tradition, the passion behind it, and so different. It's a lifestyle apparel brand kind of celebrating the game, and so pretty cool stuff. A lot of things going on for Black Friday and the holidays. So please, if you get a chance, check out AmericanFootballBrand.com if you love the game of football.
So how long was that being tossed around between you and buddies, or maybe even in your head before it?
It's been going for, we've been thinking about it for a couple of years now. We kind of soft launched it about this time last year, and it's just been kind of working our way through the process. And, I've got a lot of other things going on, obviously, in life and in business. So, it's kind of it has been on the back burner. But, there's some good friends who own a company called Baseballism, which is a baseball kind of version of this, and they do a great job, and it's a really special thing because they have a huge impact on the game. And that's my thing with football, right? Is like, you talk about how the game, the attack on the game, and all these things that are changing that, some are for the good and some I think are a little overblown. And I think the idea that us as football fans and being passionate about the game and how it can change lives, I think American Football Brand is a way to kind of channel that and support the game.
That's awesome. Well, you grew up as an Oregon kid. What made you choose WSU?
Boy, that's a phenomenal question. So I was my path was kind of unique. I grew up in Eugene, like you said. I actually played high school football with Mike Bellotti, the Oregon football coach at the time, son, and so I knew that program very well. But when it all came down to it, recruiting wise, I really wasn't a very highly recruited player, and so Boise State was a team that offered me Nevada, Idaho, and some smaller schools, and Washington State kind of came in late after Coach Price left and Bill Doba took over, and it was actually Tim Rosenbaugh, who was a former Washington State quarterback and Eastern Washington's offensive coordinator, took the job as the quarterback coach at Washington State, and so very late in the process, like a couple weeks before signing day, they offered me a scholarship, and because they had some turnover, and so for me it was about wanting to play at the highest level for sure. I also wanted to play in an offense that threw the football, and Washington State certainly was that, or had a reputation of being that. And so and then I took a trip to Pullman. Typically trips are 2 days, and I only went for 1 day because of some scheduling, and I just fell in love with it right away. I mean, I had all the things: the school piece, the football piece, the community piece, and that's how I ended up there. And I think, in all honesty, I look back, I probably didn't even know how great of an experience it would be. And so I feel very blessed that I even, I got the chance to attend school there and play football.
So it sounds like it was a pretty obvious choice, but you said they kind of came in late in the game in terms of the recruiting process. So did it throw you for a loop a little bit in terms of you leaning elsewhere before Coach Doba and Tim came in and kind of sparked your interest?
Yeah, actually, as a matter of fact, it did, mostly because I committed to Boise State, and at the time, that was Chris Peterson was the offensive coordinator, Dan Hawkins was the head coach. The guys, you look back at the guys that were on that staff when Boise State started to make their run, their rise to prominence. I mean, those guys have gone on to do incredible things in the coaching profession. So I certainly look back and, it wouldn't have hurt me by any means to go to Boise, but the hard part was I had committed there, and so I had to decommit from a great coaching staff and a great program and make the decision to go to Washington State. I was fortunate. My brother was a very high-level athlete, was a Olympic-class swimmer that went to the University of Tennessee, so he'd been through the recruiting process at a high level, and he was able to kind of talk me through, hey, man, this is part of it, decommitting, and you got to do what's best for you in that scenario. And so in the end, obviously, it worked out.
Well, I mean, they can't blame you. I mean, once you get close to Pullman, you realize that's God's country, and I don't see how anybody would not want to go there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, geez, I think that's the thing. Everybody knows it's like Pullman or bust. There's nothing else out there.
What did you think of that drive going to Pullman that very first time?
Well, see, I'm a little bit. I'm from Eugene, so it's not like it's not it's really not a big town. I mean, it's bigger than Pullman, but it's not that big. So I mean, I didn't really know any better. I mean, I think. When I think about the drive to Pullman, even now I usually I fly into Spokane and drive down to the games when I come to do the broadcast, and every time I'm in awe of it, right? I love it. I mean, it's the best. And we did, I drove up from Portland once or twice kind of after I committed and did the drive up all the way through, Eastern Washington and all that. I love it. I think it's great.
So let's put an Apple Cup spin to our conversation here, Alex, and as country here, Eric introduced you, winning this quarterback. You guys went 3-1. during your tenure against the Huskies, and just generically speaking, what is the Apple Cup like? I mean, there's some great rivalry games, especially this week. But you being a part of the Apple Cup for 4 straight years, what is that like? I mean, how can you explain that, or can you try to explain that?
Well, I think the best way for me to explain it is kind of around. I think what makes it unique is there's a couple different things. You have the geographical piece, right? I mean, you have west side, east side. Very different in just the general makeup of what those two sides of the state are like, and then you kind of have the socioeconomic side of it, and what the two fan bases, quote unquote, kind of attach themselves to, or at least I think maybe think of each other as, right?
Right.
And then you've got, to some degree, you've got the kids that are involved, and typically, with Washington State, you would say that from a recruiting standpoint, when it comes down to Washington kids, you do get more kind of Central and Eastern Washington athletes at Washington State, and you get more Western Washington kids at UW, right? And then you also factor in that the kids that come from out of state, like California kids, a lot of them, in a way, are rivals to begin with, because when they're getting recruited out of California, maybe Washington State's recruiting them, but Washington's not. So they already have a chip on their shoulder when they come out. So from a roster standpoint, a lot of the kids are already kind of have a little bit of a rivalry, amongst themselves. So I think, you factor all those things together, and that's what makes this thing so special, on top of obviously the history and the pageantry of it, and kind of and I guess this is fair to say about most rivalries, but I mean, some of the quirkiness of the games, and the ball really never bounces the way you think it's going to some degree in the Apple Cup. I mean, and I think I experienced that. I mean, boy, in 2006, the one Apple Cup we lost, I mean, that's the one we probably should have won, in all honesty. Yeah. And it just, they had 5 big plays that were the difference in the game, it felt like, and those type of things. And obviously I was a part of that 2003 game as I was redshirting, but over in Seattle with Matt Kegel and Cody Pickett, and boy, it's like you just never feel like it's going to go like it says it is, right?
Mm-hmm. You talked about you've been in part, including your redshirt year, 5 years, and then with you taking the snaps 3-1. So I looked up some stats on, I think it was, I can't remember what statistician website it was, but you had a pretty darn good career against UW. I want to say 62% completion percentage, 1,250 yards. You had 11 scoring strikes, 11 touchdowns, and maybe even more importantly, 0 picks. You had 1 rushing touchdown as well, but 0 picks. Is that still, after a couple of years, allow you to puff up with pride, or do people, obviously you want to score, but you never gave them an opportunity to do a pick six or anything?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think it's you kind of look back, and even now I kind of shake my head at it, because I think, to some degree, the stat line is as unbelievable as going 3-1, right? And for me personally, it's like that obviously makes you feel good, but then you also think about it from a quarterback standpoint, right? That's number one. You got to protect the football. Got to make sure you don't give them, give the other team any opportunities. And I think, my senior year, a lot of people obviously remember the touchdown to Brandon and that game in 2007. The thing that I kind of look back on is the game before that. I probably played the worst game of my career against Oregon State and threw 6 interceptions. So then to turn around and throw, 5 touchdowns and no interceptions against the Dogs next week, I think makes me puff up with pride a little bit more that I didn't fold after having a really bad game the week before.
Well, we got one more question for you before we let you go. Coach Leach has always made this game out in his tenure here just to be another game. I think Coug fans can probably say differently, but just touch on, you've experienced it, especially winning in Seattle, which has got to be amazing. What does an Apple Cup victory really mean to a Coug fan? I mean, I know it's a yearly pride thing, but how much pride do Cougs take in this win?
Well, I think they take a ton of pride in it, and I think it's one of those things that for Washington State, they're always kind of fighting this uphill battle. It feels like in the state to kind of be talked about in the same regard as University of Washington is, which it is certainly something that Coug fans struggle with all the time. So you get the win, and and there is the yearly pride thing, but it's also kind of a validation of what the program's doing. And to me, when you go into Husky Stadium particularly, I mean, there's, you're kind of going into that enemy territory looking to really put a stamp on, what your season is. And for both these teams now this year, you think about, kind of disappointment I think both teams have had, an Apple Cup win is really a way to get yourself back on top and feeling good about how the season went. I mean, because I think both these programs would say, they maybe are not where they would want to be here at the end of the year. So I think for me personally, the thing is that you never want to make it more than it is, more. And I appreciate where Coach Leach is coming from that standpoint. But, as an athlete, I mean, you have to have some pride in it, and you have to have a chip on your shoulder. I grew up in Eugene, and I went to the Civil War Oregon State, which is very similar type of rivalry. So I had a deep appreciation for what the Apple Cup was, and I took a lot of pride in playing in that game. And I think that's kind of one of those things when we talk about, the stats and those sort of things. Was when I went into that game, it was as hyper focused as any game that I played. And I think to some degree that's where some of that success came from, was my appreciation of the rivalry. So I think you have to have that as an athlete. And the coaches and the guys that have grew up in the state, I think, do a good job of impressing that upon everybody in the program. But I think they can continue to get better. And obviously Washington State hasn't had the success that anybody would have wanted to this point, I think, in Coach Leach's tenure. So it's in the Apple Cup. So, if it happens this week, it's going to be because guys realize the importance of the execution in this game.
That the atmosphere in the locker room prior to the Apple Cup, did it always feel different than any other game?
It was. I mean, it was. There was a heightened sense about it, and there's always when you're in a locker room, right? Before a game, there's always there's always a buzz and always an energy. But and for us in particular during my time is typically we got to the end of the year and we weren't really where we were at record wise. So that was so the Apple Cup was the chance, was the time to kind of be able to put our stamp on the season. And we did. And like I said, 06 was the one where, we had 6 wins. We thought we were pretty much in a bowl game, and we ended up losing, just a heartbreaker. And it's kind of and that was one of those things you look back, boy, we could have been 4-0 in the Apple Cup as a senior class over those 4 years, which would have been pretty special. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a different buzz, during the week and during kind of the lead up to the game.
Yeah.
All right, last question for this time. Final prediction. What's going to happen? What's the final score going to be?
Boy, I love it. I'm aggressive in this scenario, and I think the Cougs are going to go in there. I think it should be a tight game. I think Washington State, going to be able to throw the football, but Washington's going to probably run the ball pretty effectively, and so I think we're getting into a little bit of a shootout. I think Cougs win this one 45-42. Late field goal,
Wow.
Blake Mazza.
I love it. Well, Alex, we really appreciate you joining us today, and good luck. Have good luck on the call this weekend, and go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
Thanks, guys. Go Cougs.
Well, welcome back, Valley Sports fans. What a fun interview. Alex Brink, thank you so much for being a part of our podcast and being our guest today, guys. What'd you think?
I liked what he said when I was talking about like a fan perspective. My heart is always like just bursting through my chest, and he's always like, if you're prepared well and you're dialed in, yeah, you're going to acknowledge it's an amped up atmosphere, but just do your job. And so that's always that's the difference between good players and great players is, are you doing your job, and are you you keeping your emotions in check? So out of the many things that I got from him, that's the one that's going to resonate with me for a while. Mm-hmm. And from a coaching perspective, you're going to probably want to make sure your players understand what's the task at hand, but keep it just task oriented, right?
Right. I guess keep the energy up, understand what's at hand, and don't make a situation bigger than you thought. What do you think, Luke?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. He's a kind of interesting, the locker room atmosphere before, and how I knew it's probably different. Even how you mentioned like Mike Leach tries to keep it, it's just another game, but it really isn't another game for any rival. If it's Oregon playing Oregon State or Alabama playing Auburn, there's always that kind of, the energy's different, and that was pretty cool what he had to say about that.
Oh yeah.
The other The other thing he was talking about is, these Wazoo kids, and I guess I can say kids since I'm in my 40s now, but going to Wazoo might have a little chip on their shoulder because they got overlooked by UW. That's a big motivating factor. As long as you don't get jaded or too negative to where it creates just negativity in your own heart. But now I'm becoming an armchair psychiatrist right now. But, playing with the chip on your shoulder, that's good motivation if you can channel it the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, last week we put out the question. We on our Facebook, we put out the question, would you rather... Well, John, why don't you tell us the question?
Would you rather, our weekly would you rather question, would you rather be bowl eligible and go to like a Las Vegas Bowl or something like that, or would you rather win the Apple Cup against your most...
and not go to a bowl.
And not go to a bowl, that's right. What's more important, a bowl game that might not be the Rose Bowl or something pretty elite, or would you rather beat your rivals in the Apple Cup? And to be quite honest with you, wasn't really surprised with the responses. Mark Crowley on Facebook said Apple Cup. My buddy Dan McDonald said Apple Cup as well. You got some more responses as well, I believe.
Yeah, I know Tom Breidenbach, Kid alumni, said both.
Oh yeah,
which I don't think was an option, Tom, but we'll go with that. But actually, it is now because we're bowl eligible now, and we actually got quite a few voice messages that we're going to play. Good mix of Cougs and Huskies. If you guys ever want to reach out to us, go to the Anchor website of our podcast, and you can click a button to send a message to the show, or on your phone, record a voice memo, email it to kvsportstalk@gmail.com, and we will be more than willing to upload it. I think a fun fan interaction. Just like you're calling into a sports talk radio show, it'll be fun. We'll be more than happy to play it, good or bad, and
whether we agree or disagree.
Right, we're power to the people here.
That's right.
So, but we need to answer it. We didn't give our answer yet, I don't believe.
So I'm going to lead off with my answer. If you're going to get nothing against bowl game, I think bowl games are for the most part great. I want to say for the most part, as long as you earn it, I don't want to see losing teams and like somebody with a 6-7 record. Yeah, you got 6 wins and you're bowl eligible, but so bowl games are important, especially from a revenue standpoint and getting a bunch of money to go there. But beating UW or beating Wazoo, if that's your biggest rival, and in this case they are, that's more important. I really do think Apple Cup is huge from a recruiting standpoint as well, and a source of pride that, we spent 40 minutes talking about this already, and we will spend all year talking about it. Yep. Guys like you and me, at least, right? So that's what I'm saying. Apple Cup is more important.
Yeah. Well, you look.
Yeah, I completely agree. It'd be different if it was, like say, I was thinking this while John was talking. What if you could beat your rival? Say you're number one in the country. You either could beat your rival, or if you lose, you still get to go in like the college. Say if you're going in the college football playoff. I'm kind of rambling here, but
you're fine. That's what podcasts are. Just rambling.
How am I trying to word this? So, say you're number one, and if you lose, if you beat your rival, you don't get to go in the college football playoff. But if you lose, you still get a chance.
Right.
I mean, what would you do?
Well, I know that I was in a text group. Oh, go ahead.
And you've been beat by the Huskies for six plus years.
You win the Apple Cup after. I feel like there's two different scenarios in this one. If you're a Husky fan, you're saying, from the Husky fans I know, bowl games for them is bigger than the Apple Cup because they've won. They win the Apple Cup a lot.
Yeah,
and they're usually playing for a big Rose Bowl or Pac-12.
Not this year.
Not this year. Another close friend of mine that he wanted me to keep him anonymous said, "Well, we get 15 extra practices. We need to go to a bowl game to build the program," and I agree with that. But I feel like this can change year to year. In my opinion, this year we need an Apple Cup win. But it's easy to say that we're already going bowling. We're going to be going to a bowl game. But in-state recruiting's huge. There's a lot of great athletes in this state that I feel like a Cougar win or a Husky win can help propel you into that. I think it'd benefit the Cougs more than the Huskies in getting stuff in.
But Luke, you bring up a good point. I think the would you rather question is incredibly relevant this year because there isn't a Pac-12 championship game on the line. There isn't a major bowl game on the line. So if UW or Wazoo was 10-1, 11-0 or something like that, we would have to change the focus because obviously it's going to be the bowl game that will probably be a little bit more important because those bowl games will bring millions of dollars of revenue and major TV exposure. I just think this year you're both not going to be in the Pac-12 championship game. You're not going to be on a New Year's Day bowl. Apple Cup has even more significance then.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's going to wrap things up. I think we got one shout out first for this week on December 5th. Seattle Pacific is playing at Nicholson Pavilion against the Wildcats. Open up GNAC play. It's a big week for, big start to GNAC play. Our listeners right now, if you are follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, we are going to try to upload a YouTube video. Kittitas Valley Sports Talk has purchased 2 tickets to that game. The person that can pick the Apple Cup with the closest score, because obviously there's going to be a lot of Cougs or Huskies picked. But if you can pick the winner of the game and your score is the closest, if there are repeat scores, we will go with the first person that put it on there.
What other disclaimers do we need to put on here?
This is not. I'm sure we'll think of something. We'll put it on
after
there
the fact.
After the fact. But go ahead. We'll put some posts out on all of our social media.
right.
Write in your prediction to score. There will be 2 tickets for the winner waiting at will call for the December 5th Thursday game against Seattle Pacific University.
Should be a good game too.
It should be. What's your guys' score?
Yeah, what's your pick for the Apple
I guess
Cup?
the other disclaimer is we're not winning our own tickets.
No, we're not. We'll be
It's a
there,
press pass.
but we're not winning.
We're not winning.
I really don't want to pick though because I feel like the Huskies are going to win,
Well-
unfortunately. But
You are probably the winner of the picks this year.
yeah,
Do we even have to bring that up? We went
not official
almost we went almost an entire podcast without saying Luke is the best.
Right.
But there
It's
we
close,
go.
Close. God, but I'm gonna pick the Cougs. I think it's 35-28.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do I get tickets if I win?
You have a press pass, so yes, you get to go for free.
You'll be there. You have sideline passes. I will admit, I got my crimson colored glasses on. I got nothing but love for the Huskies, nothing but love for the Cougars. I'm going to go off a tradition here. The last time UW, I've already mentioned it, last time UW had a 6-game winning streak, Wazoo won that 7th game to stop that streak. And so I'm going to say Washington State University 41, University of Washington 38.
Okay. Well, I haven't picked against them all year. I'm a loyal Coug fan. I don't think it's going to be as high scoring. I'd appreciate it because it'd be fun to watch. But I'm going Cougs with a game-winning drive. The last team that has the ball is going to win the game. But they're going to score a touchdown 24-17.
24-17.
It's going to be
There's going to
about
be
30
defense
degrees
in this game?
Hey, it's the Apple Cup. You never know what's going to
Oh,
happen.
sorry. All right.
All right, well, we're going to leave you guys with the messages from the fans that wrote in or sent us in for us. And we'd like to thank you guys again for listening. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube channel, KV Sports Talk. Feel free to email us at any time at kvsportstalk@gmail.com. You guys got any parting last words?
I just want to say happy Thanksgiving. We got a lot to be thankful for.
We do.
I'm thankful
right.
that we're on episode number 11. Can't wait for episode number 12. We're going to have plenty to talk about, but just might be a little bit cliche, but in the spirit of thanks, I mean, just been a fun opportunity to do this podcast. It's actually gone farther, and it's been more enlightening, I guess you could say. That's probably not the right word to say than I ever thought it would be. So I'm very thankful for that.
Absolutely. Yep. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys. Enjoy time with your families, and hope you guys enjoy a Friday Apple Cup. Till next week, guys, we look forward to talking to you again. Take care.